This is another episode of Distance from Center. With me is Trent Finlinson, who's back from his extended vacation. Trent, welcome back. Where you been?
I know. Look, it's been winter. I've been borderline depressed. No, I've been on my bike. I've been traveling, doing a bunch of work with Radar, doing more trips to Florida than I usually would put up with in one calendar year. But I'm back. Thank you, Rossi. Thank you, Freddie, for keeping this thing afloat. And John, winter, unless you live in Alberta, Canada, winter is over. Summer's here.
Oh my God, I'm skiing in trunks. There's no wetsuits left around here. So
Yep. Yep.
thank you to the folks at Stokes for keeping me warm all winter. Love my Stokes gear. Can I give that plug? I'm gonna.
Do it. Did. Already done. Okay, let's get right into this. We're just like that. Summer starts. In terms of the competitive ski world, it starts next week. It starts this weekend.
Yeah, this next 4 weeks in a row is wild. First one is Travers Grand Prix, which John Travers and I made a little show about, not a Distance from Center, but another show. And it's, again, I have to really applaud different tournament styles. It's not a regular go ski your 3 slalom rides, go sit in the boat, judge a couple events, go home thing. This is slalom skiing, go-karting, and skeet shooting. And even if you're not excited about go-karting and skeet shooting, you got to applaud just a different format. Just make it fun. I think it's cool. It's also teams. I don't exactly have my head around the teams format, but it's cool. I love it. I think it's fun.
Yep.
There might even still be spaces. So if you want to go ski in it, go sign up for Travers Grand Prix at Jack Travers Ski School. Awesome. All right, and then that brings us to Swiss Pro, which is, after Moomba, the first really traditional high-pressure event and probably the first event of the year where we expect to see super high scores. Do you concur with that?
Yeah. This one, there's a little less prize money than most, but this is kind of that first event where, in its preceding Masters, where people are, kind of weighing, like, okay, who's firing, and who is who maybe took too much time off this winter. The scores, given that it's at Swiss on that narrow center lake, which is just phenomenal. The scores are always through the roof because the conditions are going to be perfect. And then they do some cool stuff. They do a really good webcast. Don't miss it. We want to make sure we support these, the people that are investing their time and efforts and finances into events that we can actually watch. The webcast is phenomenal. They do they have like a strain gauge on the rope, just kind of a fun little aside where there's, I think, $500 for the guy that manhandles the boat the most and pulls the hardest in terms of a measurable poundage on this strain gauge. And it's good. I mean, everyone is going to be there who will be at the Masters, and it's definitely a fun first real event of the year.
And then that brings us to LCQ, which is, for folks who aren't familiar, that stands for Last Chance Qualifier, held at Jack Travers Ski School. So basically, on the men's side, and darn it, I should know the women's side, but on the men's side, the deal with this tournament is any skier who runs better than 3 at 41 and is the top scorer in their group, not counting people that are already qualified for Masters, that one person with the highest score, again, above 3 at 41, they get the bye and they get to move up and ski in the Masters.
Yeah. And to be clear, I believe it's 3 at 41. I don't think it's 3 1/4.
I'm sorry, what did I say, 3 1/4?
Well, you said above 3 at 41.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
So whoever wins the tournament, if they have a score of 3 at 41, they get that last bid into the LCQ. So it's kind of cool. That score is based off the world ranking list of the last person in. I believe it's something like that. It's a static score, but static this year. It changes from year to year based on world ranking lists. And 3 at 41 is actually, it's been significantly higher than that. I say significantly as in it's been 4 at 41, which in the past. So this, given that it's 3 at 41, it opens the door for a lot more, a greater number of athletes who could potentially run that number and win that tournament. for the years where it was at 4, at 41, or even 3.5, as silly as that seems, that really narrows who's knocking on that door to potentially take that last spot. So my point is the fact that it's at 3 makes the LCQ far more exciting, because this could be like we saw last year, Robert Pagozzi jumping up and grabbing that spot and then being top seed into the finals. That whole story. We have the potential for that to happen again this year.
And then that brings us to Masters, and we will. I think we're probably going to cover that in the following week. So we'll just I want to keep on moving. Okay, so 2 last pieces of business. Neither of them incredibly pleasant. First of all is Ed Brazil. I believe he was 76 years old. Passed away last week. He was living at McCormick's in Tampa. And the thing that everybody needs to know about Ed is he's pretty much the godfather of tech controllers. I called John Travers and asked him for a comment, and John just kind of said he invented all of it.
Yes.
He made it up. He's look. So a little bit of personal history is my dad built the world's first man-made tournament ski lake, and in 1972, my dad brought Ed Brazil. Ed Brazil was famous enough back then that my dad brought Ed Brazil across the country. So my dad could drain the lake and put another course in when the standard changed from metric.
Yeah.
So he was literally ground zero on the tech controllers, and then he was also the guy that really made the slalom courses and the jumps happen at the pro tournaments in the 1980s.
And all those hundreds of slalom courses around the state of Florida, and chances are really, really good that if you've skied around this country, you definitely skied on something that he's touched. If not directly, 100% indirectly. So, an icon in the sport, completely selfless with his time. So it's just it's a big loss. But maybe there's like a little bit of the only little bit of peace we can all have of this is that we unfortunately lost him he was at a ski site. He was surrounded by people that absolutely loved him and. So yeah, it's sad news for sure, but he did an incredible amount for this sport.
And then the other piece of delicate news is, as many of you know, world record holder, world champion Nate Smith was previously under restriction from Safe Sport, and as of this morning. That restriction was moved from interim restriction to interim suspension. So that the organization of Safe Sport is moving forward with their investigation. And of course, those details are all sensitive and kind of, I don't think we certainly shouldn't regurgitate the rumors.
Yeah, and a lot of. Not assuming that people don't know what these words mean, but it's such a heavy sounding deal. So, if you're going to go, in its simplest sense, whatever he's being accused of, Safe Sport feels that it's strong enough that they don't want, they're going to suspend him until they get to the bottom of it. So it doesn't mean that he's still innocent until proven guilty. So, I hope 2 things. One, I hope these allegations are completely unfounded, completely false, because in that world, no one was mistreated, and everyone's happy, and then the worst of it is Nate's reputation has been dragged through the mud. But we just gotta let this thing develop. It's not good for anyone. If it's true, it's not good for whatever the people on the receiving end of these allegations. And if it's not true, that it's been a terrible deal for Nate. So we'll have to just wait and let them finish their investigation.
Absolutely, and. The other implication, of course, is it does change the complexion of many of the events we have coming up this summer. Without the world champion, the most dominant skier in the last 10 years, at those events, it does really change the state of men's pro slalom skiing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just for everyone's sake, Nate's included. Just be patient and let due process take its course. But it's definitely a strange time. It's something. I don't even like talking about it like most people. So.
All right. Thank you, folks. We'll see you next week.